Hello, everyone. Welcome to CTL's Education Professional Development Series. I'm Stephanie Shea, Marketing Manager here at CTL. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we've been in Portland, Oregon, providing IT solutions for education, government for over 26 years. We are a Google for Education partner, and we specialize in rugged Chromebooks, laptops, convertibles, two-in-ones, and tablets, specifically designed for K-12 education. Over the last 2.5 years, we've been working with Google to introduce a line of Chromebooks, and they've been recommended by PC Magazine as the best choice for Chromebooks in education. We're proud of that. Today's webinar is going to be Introduction to CodeCombat. We have a guest, Nolan Kelly, who is a territory manager at CodeCombat. Before we get started, though, I would like to review the attendee interface, and then we're going to have 2 brief polls to find out a little bit more about our attendees today. Let's see. So this is a screenshot of what you should be seeing, something similar. And you're listening in using your computer speaker system by default. If you would like to join over the phone, all you have to do is select telephone, and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will be able to type questions into the questions pane of the control panel during the presentation, and we'll address them in the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. However, I'll be keeping an eye on incoming questions. If there's something immediate, if somebody can't hear or something like that, I will be able to reply to you privately. And now I'd like to do a couple polls. They won't take very long. The first one, we are curious how familiar people today are with CodeCombat. I'll give everyone just a few moments to fill that out. Looks like most people have voted. Okay, so let me share these results. Everyone is somewhat familiar, so that seems good. Nolan will probably be happy to know that people have heard of CodeCombat, and maybe even some people have tried it out or seen it in action. And then the other thing that we're curious about today is how much programming experience you may have. One thing is you don't really have to have programming experience to use CodeCombat in your classroom, but it could, affect how Noel explains certain parts. So it's nice to see what experience people have. So I'm giving everyone a few moments. Ooh, okay. I'm seeing some different answers. This is good. I'll give it a few more seconds here. Okay, so we've got 50% no experience and 50% a lot. So that's probably representative of a lot of schools where there's some teachers really with none and some with a lot. And I think Nolan will be able to talk about how this can work for different types of teachers. All right, so I'd like to go ahead and introduce Nolan Kelly, Territory Manager at CodeCombat. Nolan is a former teacher and former professional gamer. At CodeCombat, he's trying to merge both of these paths, and he's the first person to be hired at CodeCombat to help implement CodeCombat into schools and districts worldwide. And he has a passion for helping the next generation be prepared for careers that don't even exist yet. So with that, I'd like to welcome Nolan, and I'm going to give him the screen so he can show you everything he's got. And thanks, Nolan.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. I'm gonna go ahead and mute, but I'll be here if you need me.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining today to learn a little bit more about Code Combat and really what we are trying to do here with CTL. And just a high-level overview of what Code Combat does is we teach students how to code all age levels from 4th grade through 12th grade. So 4th, 5th, 6th, and every grade level in between. And what it is it is a game that is designed to teach them how to code. So one cool thing about Code Combat is it is all self-paced. It focuses on individualized learning. We can identify which students need help the most and give them the help that they need. And really what we did is we created this game to teach students how to code at their own speed, in their own time. And then recently, actually last November, we put it through a playtesting session, a beta you might say, to where we put it to all of these schools. We had over 5,000 schools sign up and play Code Combat and getting their students to actually learn how to code. And one thing that really differentiates us from pretty much a lot of the other programs out there is we teach students how to type real code from the first level. We give educator resources and course guides. So for example, teaching computer science does not require a background in computer science. Really all you need is to have a background in teaching. And we figured out by creating a game that was engaging and fun, and then by giving the teachers who are already good at teaching all of that material, it allows them to facilitate that learning process in the student much better than if they were just going to be learning at home in their free time. While it does work great, merging it together with the teacher is better for everyone. What I want to do quickly is just jump into what Code Combat looks like when students first jump on board. So for example, if you were to play Code Combat, students would first see this. So let's say you're a teacher and you are trying to implement a computer science program into your classroom or into your school. One way to do that is to be like, hey, let's purchase Code Combat. Let's use it as a curriculum or a supplement. And what you can do here is basically students log in. It has the goals in the upper right-hand corner. The goals are avoid the spikes, collect the gem, and then it lists the instructions for the hero to do. So at this point, you haven't taught them anything about coding. You're just like saying, hey, this is a game, let's play. So then they're going to click Start Level. And then what's going to happen is we're going to help them navigate and tell them what to do. So it'll say, hero.move right. Then right below it says, type a move down command on line 6. So whether you're high schoolers or elementary schoolers, there's a few ways they're going to type it. If they're a high schooler, they might type it hero.move, right? So then we have these different drop-down menus pop up, and then they can choose which one from here. If they are a elementary schooler, they might just write move down, like MO. Then what it has is then says hero.move down, and they can press enter here. Let's say they wanted to write it out themselves, like they're going to do hero.move down, and then do it and see what they're going to run. They click run. Here it says, look out for capitalization. Hero move down should be hero.move down with a big D. So then they can easily change it, continue, and then click run and see what happens. What is their code doing? What's the concept? One of the cool things here, and one thing that really engages the students, is you have the concepts. Each individual concept that they learn is in the lower right-hand corner. And then in the upper right-hand corner, we focus on different hints to help the students get through the particular levels. So in terms of the error messages as well as the hints, they're all written out in plain English so students can understand what they need to do to get past the level. Now that we've moved a hero down, we want to move them all the way to the right. So we're going to do hero.move right. We're going to click run. One thing to keep in mind here is we teach 2 programming languages, Python and JavaScript. And right now you can see we're using Python. And then they've accomplished their goals. Then they click done to finish the level. One of the best things about students using Code Combat is you don't have to really work uh, tirelessly trying to get them to focus on coding. The cool thing is because CodeCombat is extremely engaging for the student and was created for the student first, and then we created the teacher dashboard around it, the game is really well thought out of, and it took us 3 years to actually create. What I'm going to show really quick is that while CodeCombat is extremely good at being confident or getting students to feel confident in their ability in the beginning, it also gets more difficult and challenging as it goes on. So I'm actually going to show a level which is about maybe 20 hours into the program. It's called Decoy Drill. Before they were just learning, how to move their hero left and right and down and up. Now we're teaching them how to build decoys. We're teaching them while true loops. We're also teaching them how to move to XY coordinates. And this might seem advanced right now, but the thing is, students as young as 4th and 5th grade are able to type this code because each code and each line builds on something that we've covered previously. So I'm not going to do this entire level for you, but what I am going to show is when typing your code on the right, it shows up on the left, and then when your code is running, we always highlight where you are. So we'll always highlight what the character or the hero is doing in that moment. So if the student wanted to click pause and figure out, okay, how could I do this faster? How could I do it more efficient? They could drag it left and right to be like, okay, what did I do wrong there? Or like, was there a shortcut I'm missing? And then they can always go up and check their hints in the upper right-hand corner. One thing, so the game itself is really fun. We have students going through this at their own pace. We give practice levels. So for example, let's say a student is having difficulties with level 13, Cupboards of Kithgard, and we think that that particular student needs extra help. We actually assign that student automatically a practice level that looks very similar to the practice level, but only the students or only the teacher knows that that student is getting that extra practice level. This is great because for the students who need extra help, they get it, and for the students who don't need the extra help and we understand that they've understood the concepts, they can easily move through it to the point where they can still progress. The great thing about having all of this, which is having all of this online, is we can monitor it. So for example, the teacher can monitor how the student is doing. They can look at the course progress in their dashboard. They can see just how long each student has spent on each course. And then they can see if individual students need help just by clicking on them. So for example, if I wanted to see how Sarah was doing, I could click on Sarah. It'll say, Sarah X is doing well in computer science too. This student is keeping pace with the class. Then it'll talk a little bit about what lessons she's done so far. It'll talk about how long it took this particular student to complete these levels compared to the average in the class. This is great because when a student is underperforming or maybe not performing quick enough, we can use these to pair up specific students so they can work together. And it also helps the teacher focus on really helping those students that need the most help. One thing I also wanted to mention is since it is all cloud-based, all you need is an internet connection. It works great on Chromebooks, desktops, laptops, and there's no drop in technical ability. So one thing here is creating a new class is extremely easy. You just create your class. Then we have the programming language. We recommend Python for beginner students because it's a great beginning language, but it's also very advanced to the point to where Google, Pinterest, Facebook, they all hire Python developers. Then you click Create Class, and your class is created. To add students to your class, we do integrate with Google Drive, and then you can also just invite students either by email, by putting in their email here, or you can have them go to codecombat.com, click I'm a student, and then they put in this code here, which is not case sensitive for some of the younger ones. If students forget their password, you can just change it on the fly here just by clicking edit, and then you can put in the new password for them. There's no waiting to get a Gmail or an email verification system here. You can just do it, and the teacher has full control. One thing I want to create is benchmarks for students. One thing that's difficult with having students go through computer science courses and coding courses is it takes them a long time until they're able to actually build something. So what we've done is actually we have sprinkled these like checks and balances, basically these assessments that you can do for students to see how they're doing. So for example, they create a game and a website. So I'm going to show you an example of a game that a student can create in CodeCombat within just the first few weeks of them going through it. So for example, here in CodeCombat you control your hero, but in the game development course you control the entire environment. So the cool thing here is we're teaching them how to spawn fences, how to spawn villagers, how to spawn munchkins, how to create all of these things. So then at the end, they have a game that they can create and then send out to anyone with an internet connection. So for example, if they can send this link out, which they can, anyone can play their game. So this is great for sending to parents, sending to students, sending to fellow students to then play, sending to the teacher, and this is a great way for them to actually assess their learning. So for example, if they can create a game that's fun, creative, engaging, challenging, then this is something that we know that they're learning how to code, because behind this entire game, behind all these fences, behind these gems, there's code. There's lines and lines of code that the students have created. One thing I wanted to just show really quick is you can click play level, and then anyone can play this game just by clicking the mouse. So the goal here would be to collect all the gems and then get to the very end of the level. And this is something the student can do and demonstrate. Anyone can see it. What we also have them learn how to do, and we teach them how to make another project with it, which is actually a website. So we've actually created a wanted poster, and at the end we have them manipulating it and changing it. So they've created a wanted poster that they can take with them. So let's say they've only done this in 6th grade. They did it in a 6th grade elective class. After that, they can create their website. They can use their wanted poster. They can adjust the font. They can do all these different things and see what all of them do. And then at the end, they have a working example of a wanted website that they can now take with them, put a part of their portfolio. We can help them create GitHub accounts, which are accounts that have all of their projects that they've been working with in code. And then at the end, this is an example one that they have. She was wanted. Coffee was wanted for destroying plants in the garden. The reward was $1.50. And her known accomplices were Snowball, Mocha, and Autumn. We taught her how to put all of these images here, and at the end, captured alive and cuddled. One thing I wanted to mention is this is just really great for students to be able to check their progress. Are they learning? And then in terms of dealing with learners from all backgrounds, our CodeCombat is in over 50 different languages. So for example, if you had some ELL language learners, you would just have them click the language of their choice, and then they can go through it in that language. In terms of teacher tools, we literally give you everything to facilitate a class you would need. So for example, this is an example of what students create in order for them to get through a particular level. They'll talk about what level it was, what was the goal, what did they do, what did they learn, what was challenging. This is more for elementary school. For students a little bit higher caliber, we give them things that actual engineers would do. So this is an engineering cycle worksheet, and this helps with problem solving, and it also helps with them trying to figure out the answer on their own before having to go to the teacher for help. So here we have them assessing the problem, designing a solution in plain English, then implementing the design, writing out the code, and then debugging and running. And so if a student comes up to the teacher and has this filled out, the teacher knows that, okay, I can now help them with my course overview and solution sheet here. So for example, the teacher has every single piece of materials that they will need to teach a class. Here we give an overview of each individual level, and then we also give how to get through the level in the most efficient way. So we'll always have the most efficient way to beat the level at the bottom. In coding, there are many different ways to do different things, but what we're always going to do is give you the most efficient way of getting through the level. And then the last thing is we have full curriculum. So for example, if you wanted to say, hey, I need to teach a computer science class next semester. I don't have a computer science teacher, but I want to get my 300 students coding. Literally all you would need is CodeCombat, because we give you the curriculum. We give you the overview of the level. We then talk about the scope and sequence, broken down into 4 45 to 60-minute sessions. This is the first course. We talk about a few standards that we associate with, some transfer goals. We give you instructive activities to do with the students outside of the computer. And then we also give a reflection piece after the coding. So then we'll say, why is syntax important? Does order matter? Can a human understand the directions even if there's a mistake in the syntax? Can a computer? No. Then they actually code, and then at the end we have them do written reflection. So if you just wanted to pick up and teach a class, you have everything you need here. But that is pretty much it when it comes to CodeCombat. There's also a few more technical things that I can go into. You can export all your stats to a CSV. It's really easy to create classes and adjust license durations. You can work with multiple students throughout the year on one account. But that is pretty much it. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
Thanks, Nolan. Yeah, I really liked kind of just watching this game in action and learning about the different languages. That seems like a pretty big deal, because that could be very helpful if someone didn't have English as their first language. They're already learning a coding language.
Right.
So,
And they also,
so
it's great for classes too in the US. You might have 30 students, and 5 of them might speak different languages. So everyone can be working on the same thing at the same time in their native language.
yes, I like that. And I'm going to keep an eye on my questions box. Nothing has come in yet, but I have a couple questions. And
Sure.
I was curious about if you had a mixed class with different backgrounds in computer science, how could you use Code Combat for students of different levels?
Totally. Yeah, that's a great question. So because we're able to identify how each student goes through, so for example, we can click and see how long it takes each person to go through it. We can identify who to assign what to. So one of the great things here is at the end of each course, there's multiplayer. So students who might be finishing fast can actually play against the other students in their class who've finished fast. And then, so what you can do there is then everyone going through the program doesn't have to sacrifice learning, and the people who have finished fast don't have to go on to the next program, therefore sacrificing your lesson plan. So the cool thing about this is you can assign each individual students different courses.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also great because it's all at their own, one, it's at their own computer, and two, that students learn at their own pace. You can have some students that might take 30 minutes to get through a level or get through a course, and some students that might take 2 hours. Doesn't mean that one student is particularly better or worse than the other one. It just means that they might be working through it, or they might not have a background in it. So how it works is really up to the teacher, but there's a lot of choices you can do here. You can either have them all stay on the same thing and not go on to course 2 until everyone's ready, or you can pick and choose what student is working on what at any individual time? It's a good question.
Okay, yeah, that's really good to know. And then is it licensed by the year? Is that how it works? Right.
Yes. So we usually license by the year, but if you have let's say 2 semesters or 4 quarters in the year, we would just have those licenses last for a certain duration. So like 3 months here, 3 months there. But for example, if you wanted to use, 100, let's say you had 200 students throughout the year, but you only had 50 of them going at one time, you could use those 50 licenses for 3 months here, then another 3 months, another 3 months, therefore just being more efficient for you guys as well. Good question.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I was curious. Yeah, I think it's too hard to specifically answer on cost because it really depends on the license and also volume and everything. So I'm gonna refer our sales rep to that question I saw about that. But
Oh yeah, totally.
um, yeah, but as far as we did get another question about does it work on a Chromebook, and I think you touched on that, but maybe you can just reiterate the platforms.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it works great on Chromebooks. So for example, it works great on a desktop, laptop, and a Chromebook. So basically, if you have one of those devices, or if you have mix and matched devices, it works great on all of those. The only thing it does not do great on an iPad due to the fact that you usually have to create an iPad app. However, we found that Chromebooks, desktops, laptops, no problem, same performance across the board.
Okay, that's great. And can they switch? So are they logging in, with the email, so maybe they're not on the same Chromebook every time as long as they use their login?
Totally, yeah. So they can
Okay.
either log in via email or via username. And one cool thing too is if you have one student going through this in one semester and then they switch to another teacher's semester, they will start where their progress left off. So they don't have to start over again. We know where they are, and then the teacher knows where they are, so they don't have to reiterate anything.
Oh, well, that's really good. Yeah, it saves their results. Um, yeah, this is really informative. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that people might be curious about. We allotted, a full hour, but if we don't use that time, it's okay too.
Totally.
Um, you mentioned using it as class curriculum, and are those curriculum divided by grade level?
So it's divided by basically time we think it's going to spend.
Okay.
So for example, because we use a few different, excuse me, because we're fifth, sixth, seventh, all the way up through 12th grade, it really depends on how long. But for example, we found on average, this is about how long students need, anywhere from 4th grade to 12th grade. So obviously 12th grade is probably going to be more around the 30 to 45 minutes, while the 4th and 5th graders, they'll probably take more around the 60-minute coding sessions.
Okay, I get it. So that's kind of how you decide grade level is. That makes sense because I think as they get older, they have more attention span.
Yeah, right. And they'll also, and just some of the concepts are difficult, like a high schooler might be studying something very similar in like an algebra class as they're studying in some of the later courses in CodeCombat, so they'll get it right away. Whereas an elementary school or middle schooler has maybe never been exposed to that until CodeCombat, which is a
hmm
great thing to expose them to, at a younger age, because then when they get to algebra later, they're they're already ready to go. But um, basically, yeah, we try to break it up so all students and teachers can go at their own pace. This is just kind of like uh, if you don't have a curriculum, and
hmm
this is one you can use.
Okay, that's great to know. Now, someone is asking, are there Rubics included?
That is
And
a
I'm not.
that is a great question. So rubrics, I'm guessing you mean rubrics to kind of grade the students on in terms of coursework completed.
Yes, that's what he says. Yes, I'm glad because I wasn't sure. I'm new. I'm not
Sure.
up on that. So okay, yes,
Yeah, no,
that's what.
that's so we don't have rubrics per se. Really, one of our only ways that we judge if the students are getting it or not, or one is our student progress here. Um, you guys can't see my CSV, can you, on your screen?
Not at the moment.
Okay, how about now?
Now, yes.
So what this is here is on the right-hand side, we have what concepts basically they've covered and mastered to this point. So in order for them to get through each course, they need to be able to do a certain level, and each level focuses on a certain concept. If we find the students are taking too long for those particular levels, they're going to get assigned another practice level that focuses on that same concept. So we don't have rubrics. However, what we do have is they're creating projects throughout the year, and then we have all of this data which says how long it's taken them to complete it, as well as what concepts they've covered. That's a great question, though. And that's something we're looking at doing possibly down the line, but we've had so many different teachers' input for how they want it. We're just going to probably put something up that says, almost like a forum or something that you can fill out your own rubrics and then teachers can share with each other, something like that.
Okay, that's good. I think that answered it. Um, so another question that came in, yeah, he said yes, that answered his question.
Okay, great.
Um, Another question that came in is if a student would like to code outside of the program, like outside of the game, is there any kind of carryover lessons?
So when you mean outside of the game, like do you mean just like if they wanted to go and type in another program or like type at home?
I think they mean, let's see. He says yes. Yes to
Oh,
which one,
sorry.
Walter? That's okay. Let's see. Yes, I know who's asking this question. So, Walter, do you mean at home or do you mean outside of Code Combat? Outside of Code, yeah, outside of Code Combat.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the languages we use, Python and JavaScript, because students are actually learning how to type actual code, it translates into them going into any other program. So for example, if they wanted to go through the entire CodeCombat program, um, one, they'd be extremely advanced and they cover 84% of what Stanford covers in their first two computer science courses.
Hmm.
So by going through CodeCombat in a year, they cover nearly everything that Stanford covers in their first two courses when they arrive as a freshman. So the cool thing is here is if students really get into it, which we find a lot of them do, they go out and then they start making games and apps on their own because they have this ability of actually being able to translate it into real world experience.
That's pretty cool.
That's a great question, yeah. And the thing is, Python is extremely advanced as well as beginner language, which is a good one for them to learn. But then the JavaScript, I mean, JavaScript is the language of the web. All the websites and most things are built on JavaScript.
Hmm.
We also dabble in teaching them HTML as well as basic CSS, so they can come out not only knowing how to program apps and creating games, but also creating their own websites as well.
Okay. Yeah, so in the demo you showed the mostly the game, but was the wanted poster part of the website development?
Yeah, so the website, how that looks is like, at the end they have the wanted poster. I just kind of showed the end goal, but in the
Hmm.
beginning, we're basically teaching them what it means to create a website. So the first thing they're just like, it says edit me. They're like, I can
Hmm.
edit here, right? And then it and then
Yeah.
it and then it shows up on the left. So and then we go and we progress. We teach them page paragraphs. We teach them how to adjust the font. We teach them how to put in an image, and then at the end we put them all together, and then they have their own little working website. And in the future, what we're trying to do is create even more open atmospheres for them. But for now, we're having them focus on we want you to create a wanted poster, and then once they can demonstrate their skills there, they can go create their own website using the HTML they just learned in CodeCombat.
Oh, that's great because that could tie in. I could picture, with some other curriculum. If teachers are doing specifically web stuff, they could take that outside of Code Combat and then make a class website or something.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. Yeah, and then a lot of the links of what students have done, it's a live website, so you could, if teachers have their own teacher pages or anything like that, they can not only share the games and have the other students play them, but they can share the websites and send it to parents, and it's a place where you can basically see it all in one place.
That's great. Would you mind showing the resource hub? I was curious what was in that tab.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of really useful stuff here. So for example, we have, the educator FAQ, we have a teacher getting started guide, so it's really easy for students to get started, or for teachers to get started as well as students. So literally, if you're a teacher, all you would do is go to codecombat.com, click create a teacher account, put in the necessary requirements for a teacher, which is just email, name, a few different things like that, and then it says create a new class, which walks you through setting up a class. It says why you should choose Python or JavaScript, has you adding students, and then at the end, students are added, and then that's pretty much it in terms of getting started. And then some of the other things we have, so we have a lot of, pair programming activities are great because you get one student to be the driver and one's the navigator. Basically, what we want CodeCombat to be is a turnkey curriculum for teaching computer science. And we want to give the teachers everything they need in terms of activities, lesson plans, curriculum, answers. So there's never any question to what am I doing today? The prep work is minimal, as well as the PD. Professional
Mm-hmm.
development is only about 30 minutes to an hour before they teach the class. And we find that not only do students catch on within minutes, but teachers really get to navigate the program really easily.
That makes sense. Yeah. And that's probably also like a real life situation, maybe that programmers work in pairs.
Yeah, yeah, that is completely right. Yeah, and also one thing I forgot to mention is when teachers are um, or when students are going through the particular program, you can always pair them up together based on ability. So you can always look at your class progress and see, who's doing well, who might need extra help. So for example, Jose has gotten through course 1 and course 2. You might want to pair them up with Lee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. So they really, get to help each other out.
Then we also have a student quick start guide that looks a little like this.
Oh, cool.
It really introduces them to what their hero is and how to navigate CodeCombat. Even though students are pretty quick to learn that, this is just a great thing to laminate, print out, keep for multiple classes.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I like the artwork on your on your game.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Yeah, I think it's engaging right away because it looks like something that would be a video game that kids would play. And I think that's going to probably draw them in.
And they think they're playing a video game, but little do they know they're actually learning a very valuable skill.
You're tricking them, yes, in a good way. So yeah, I see that, and they probably get really creative. It seems like there's the ability, if I understood it right, for the kids to make their game look custom any way they want, so they can have different landscapes. Is that true?
Yeah, so basically we leave it up to them at the end to pretty much customize their own game. So we
Mm-hmm.
give them all the tools, we teach them how to make everything, and then at the end they are left with this completely open environment. So you'll have students who are the really creative types and be like, oh, you know what, I'm going to make all of these different things. And then they look down here and they realize, I'm going to make a forest. I'm going to make these gems. I'm going to make it so hard that not even my teacher can beat it. So
Mm-hmm.
those are some things you find them really mastering these levels, and which is just a great way to use this tool as a just an assessment piece. You can see, did they complete the goal? Did they make it beatable? And was it fun to play? And then you can have the
Mhm.
students vote as well as the teachers.
That's great. Okay, so yeah, we may wrap a little early, just I think, unless anything else pops in. This has been pretty thorough. You know how to pack a lot of information in a brief amount of time,
I
which is
know.
great.
I tried to. Yeah, usually I have about 30 minutes, so this one was
Oh, and I did want to, yeah, ask about the free trial. So they can test this out, right? You have a trial.
yeah, so if you were, if you had were at this presentation and you said, "Hey, CodeCombat looks like something I'd like to try in my classes," you could actually just click "I'm a teacher," go to
Hmm?
codecombat.com, create your account, connect with Google Plus, and then after that, you have access to the very first course for free. So it's anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. You can upload as many students as you want, and everything I showed you in terms of collateral, data, class dashboard, that's everything you can see in your own teacher account.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably key is, being able to just get in there hands-on. That's usually the best way to check something out. I mean, this is good to watch it, but I think, if teachers have the ability to play around with it themselves, or test it on students,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the best evaluators, right? Like if they don't
Absolutely.
enjoy it, like we're not doing our jobs.
Yeah, yeah. So thanks for sharing that info. And that's something I can also send like a link out if people want to test it out. Now, that kind of raises a question that just came in is how do you handle homeschools?
So so the only difference between having a class where everyone's in that class at one time and more of a homeschool approach is you get everything you see here. The only difference is you just won't have that uh, hands-on approach. Unless, do you mean homeschools as in like one school? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? I don't want to.
Sure. Yeah, it came from someone here that I know actually. So yeah, I think it's like a few families is what he was thinking.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so for that, you could create a class for those however many students you wanted to have on, and basically everything would be the same. We have students who do this, and we have parents who might only get 2 licenses and have their 2 students going through it, and then they use CodeCombat the same exact way I showed you, except you'll just see a lot less people in here.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
Um,
a lot of people ask us about that. And while we don't have something directly like marketed towards homeschools, we have a lot of people doing it this way, so the parents can monitor the students' progress like this.
that's great. Yeah, it seems because it's cloud-based, it can almost be anywhere. It could even be maybe a community center activity, how they have the
Right,
community
yeah.
classes or something. It wouldn't even, it could be schools. I see a lot of places this could be useful. Okay. Well, Nolan, thank you for all this information. If if you have anything else to add, let me know. Otherwise we can kind of start wrapping up.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. But if any questions do arise, either get in touch with Stephanie or myself. We're happy to help walk any teachers, administrators, parents through other ways that teachers set up their class to see how it would work in the class setting. But really, if there's one thing to take away, is just students can type real code as soon as they're introduced to it. It just needs to be in the right format, and send it out to the students. Have them be the judge.
Sure, sure. And yeah, I'll take this screen back because then I can show the links to
Perfect. Me
our
too. Okay.
There we go. Haha. Um, and oh wait, show my screen. Here we go. Uh, so yeah, we have my email, Nolan's email, and then something I wanted to mention for educators is that you can get a certificate of completion just going to this link you see, and you don't have to memorize this right now. There's an email that goes out automatically in about an hour, and it will give you this link, and you can, it's a short survey, answer the questions, and then you get a certificate of completion. And the survey helps us to, improve our webinars for you. So we'd appreciate it if you could do that. And we're also recording, and we're going to have that recording available within 24 to 48 hours. The web link for that is ctl.info/webinars. And again, that will be in the email that you receive. So this is kind of a good resource. You can come back and review the recording again or share with other teachers. Um, and we're here to answer your questions as well. So I think that's it on my end, and I want to thank you so much, Nolan, for your time.
Of course. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for attending, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.